Good morning, everyone. Welcome to October's edition of our monthly webinar series titled What's New at TownNews.com. In the series, we will highlight our upcoming and most exciting updates. The webinars occur on the first Thursday of every month at 10:30. Today, you can expect about 20 minutes of presentation, followed by a question and answer session. I'm Paige Ruba. I'm a marketing specialist here at TownNews.com. In the room with me, we also have Director of Product Development, Christine Masters. She'll be doing the bulk of the presentation. We also have Product Manager Rich Griffin and Betsy Davison, Director of Quality Assurance. Today we will discuss new rule profiles that make upkeep of subscription packages even easier, importing and sharing YouTube videos with block syndication tool, and our new Halloween and winter skins that are available for Bulletins blocks. Feel free to type in questions as we go, but we will not answer them to the very end. You can type in the questions in the question window, and we will try to answer all questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I hand it over to Christine.
Great, thank you very much. All right, one thing that we're going to do a little bit different today is I'm going to start off with the PowerPoint that we usually do, but because these two topics are a little bit more complicated than usual, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a live demo at the end. So I'm going to try to go through the PowerPoint a little more quickly than usual because of that. So first off, you might have already noticed the new paywall subscription changes that have come out about like a week ago? Something like that, yeah, last Tuesday. Hopefully you didn't notice, which is also a good thing. But essentially, we knew that a lot of people had a lot of different types of services, and those services might be applied to the same URLs, or they might be applied to different URLs. In either case, it meant managing all of those URLs, especially if you have hundreds of URLs, it makes it kind of difficult. We noticed, especially as we were going through creating the software, we noticed that many people had, let's say, 5 different types of services, but they were all applied to seemingly the same URLs, but maybe 1 or 2 were slightly different, probably because somebody just didn't check the box right, which meant that you might have weird cases of people not being able to log into a certain page, or certain pages not working, or things like that. So this new software really essentially allows you to create a rule profile, which is a bunch of URLs grouped together, which can be assigned to more than one service. So for example, if you have, let's say the news section, you have 15 different URLs in your news section and business section. All of those are behind subscription, but entertainment and calendar are all free. Well, you can create a rule profile that just shows news and business, and then you'll be able to see, you'll be able to apply that one rule profile to 10 different services, and you're guaranteed that those rules are correct for those services. If you have to add one new URL, or you have to subtract a URL, you don't have to go in and add that single URL to 10 different services or something. You just add it to the rule profile, and it will then apply to all of those services. The second part of this, because of the fact that we now have these profiles that manage which URLs are applied to which services, or I guess which services are applied to which URLs, we also have it's a little button that's available inside each of the rule profiles that says disable the rule of restrictions for this particular rule profile. That means that any of the services that use that rule profile will then act as though there are no URLs applied to that service, which means that all of those pages would then become open. The subscription service itself is still active, so people can buy it and still, sign up for, the VIP online subscription, but people would be let in to see those pages. This might be useful if you have, there's a flood or some kind of tornado, and you want to have the site be free for a couple hours in the morning or something like that. This way you could disable rule profiles, and you're able to actually turn off the paywall for a short period of time, but it is still, people can still log in, people can still subscribe to it. You're not like shutting down the service itself. As I said, I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail at the end of the PowerPoint, just because I want to show you kind of a live example and how to optimize the rule profiles for your site. So start thinking of your questions now if you have any questions on how to set that up or the best usage of it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get into the live demo. Another tool that we wanted to talk about today, this also has been released recently. We have a new, it's about a year old, I think, product called Syndication, and we just added a really big new feature to Syndication. Just to do a really quick introduction to Syndication, if you're not using this, the Syndication tool itself allows you to set up content channels into different services or different sites, depending on, you know, what you're using it for. It essentially creates a window that looks into those sites, and then it doesn't really pull in the assets, but it lets you see into those sites, and then you can look at an application view that looks kind of like the editorial system, but you're looking into another site. And then you can choose to pull out specific assets and then bring them into your own site. So this is kind of some examples that we have currently set up. We're working on launching Associated Press, so you'll be able to create an Associated Press channel and have them manually or automatically pulled into your site. Block CMS, so you can do a blocks-to-block syndication. If you have any sister papers or you know, partner papers in your area, or anything that, you know, like we were talking the other day to military sites that they all cover military news, and they might be a good, even though they're not necessarily related as publications, but they are related in terms of the type of news they cover, theoretically, they could form a partnership and share content with each other. We're actually talking to several people now, and I think did you guys do the newsletter yet? Okay. In our next newsletter that comes out next week, we're actually going to talk more about this idea of a content exchange and, you know, seeing if there's any customers interested in actually sharing content between each other. We think that this is a really cool thing that benefits both the source paper and the destination paper. So look forward to that newsletter next week where we talk more about that. But so this week, the new thing that has been added to Syndication is the ability to actually create a channel into YouTube, which is a new thing that's now available. You can have a specific channel brought in or a specific search that you're maybe for your local area or a sports team. And again, that creates kind of a window into that YouTube channel, and you can pick and choose assets to pull into your site. So again, I'll show you a live demo of that so that you can see that in action a little bit more in detail. The next thing that we wanted to talk about today is kind of a fun new thing. If you are familiar with our Bulletins block, the Bulletins block is a kind of a stylish little block that will show different types of assets in different ways. Probably the most common way that people have been using it is showing PDF assets from classifieds. So essentially they're taking their print paper, you know, the advertisements from the print paper, they're pulling them in as PDF assets. So this is kind of an example of that. And they're showing them online. It also can show business directory assets. So, you know, featured businesses or businesses in a particular category. And the cool thing about the block is that when you click on this particular box, it actually has a pop-up ad or a pop-up overlay that gives you more details about that ad and more details about that business directory profile. So, and each of those clicks where they're actually bringing up the profile page or the details of that ad will count as a page view towards that ad or towards that business. So it's kind of a nice little easy thing to put together. We have a bunch of themes that can be applied. There's like I think we have Valentine's Day, patriotic, real estate, and we're adding 2 more for the upcoming holidays. We have a winter one for obviously for the end of the year for Christmas or for just a generic winter type category. And we also have a Halloween with a dark background and little candy corns that you can use for kind of a holiday for the Halloween type of a theme. So again, if you're doing anything in print with print advertisements that are all buying ads behind a theme, for an increase, let's say you charge $25 for it to go online. Let's say if you had a bunch of Halloween haunted houses that were posting print ads in your area to advertise the haunted house, you could actually take those PDFs, put them online, maybe put a keyword tag on them for Halloween, something like that, and then those would then go into a bulletins block showing all of your Halloween ads together with the bulletins with the Halloween theme. So that could be a really cute way to give some additional boost to those ads. So let me show you really quickly here, before we get into questions, I'll show you a live demo of a couple of those things. So to start off with, this is our subscription system. You probably have noticed by now, when you first come into subscription, you'll notice some pop-ups that point out some of the new things that are available. And it will point you to the new rule profiles and how to assign them. But to go through this here quickly, as you can see, I have 3 different services that are available. If you click to open one of the services, you'll see a new tab called Rule Profiles. And then this will show all of the rule profiles that are available for your site. When we first launched this new feature, every service that you have will create its own separate rule profile. This way we can guarantee that there's no changes for how your site operates. But having, let's say, 10 different rule profiles might not be the most optimized way to run your site because of the fact that, again, you're going to have to manage each of those profiles separately. So one thing that everyone should do is to go to your rule profiles area and consolidate and optimize your rule profiles so that they're easiest for you to use. One way that you can do this is to come in here and say, let's say I have, in this case, I have 4 different rule profiles that may or may not line up to the services that I have. But I'm going to consolidate them all into the online subscriptions rule profile because that's the main, rule profile that I'm going to use for my site. So one way that you can do it is to go into each of your services and click on the rule profiles that you want to use for that particular service. So in this case, I'm going to use online subscription. And then if I go to the online subscriptions one, again, I'm going to assign the online subscriptions rule profile to that one, which is already there. My free tablet access, again, change this to online subscriptions. So now we can look at, if you go to this tab here for rule profiles, you can see the different rule profiles that are available for my site and how many services have been assigned to that particular profile. So it's very easy to see at this point that we have 0 services for business VIPs, 0 services for free tablet access, and 0 services for VIP subscription. That means that I can actually get rid of those rule profiles because they're no longer in use. So if you click on one of them and you click on delete, it'll say, are you sure you wish to delete the selected profile? You can say yes, and it will delete that profile right away. Again, that's fine because you weren't assigned, it wasn't assigned to any services. But if I come in here, let's change this really quick. So now if I go back to my rule profiles, you can see that I have 1 service assigned to free tablet access and then 2 to online subscription. Well, let's say I want to transfer them all over to the online subscription rule profile. I can delete these other ones. It'll ask you again if you want to delete them. You can say yes. Then it will give you a pop-up box that says, one or more of the rule profiles actually has a service assigned to it. So you should choose the rule profile that you want to consolidate them into. So in this case, I want online subscriptions. And now it has deleted the other two rule profiles, and I have one rule profile with 3 services. So that's the way that you could be able to essentially optimize your rule profiles to have the smallest profiles possible. Obviously, you would only want to do that if all of those rule profiles were supposed to be the same. They might not actually be identical because you might have had mistakes in there, but if they're supposed to be the same thing, basically all of your content sections, you could, without any problem, know that you're going to delete the old ones, assign them to this one consolidated profile, and that will manage all of your URLs. So just as an example, you might have a rule profile for, content sections, and you can say that, arts and entertainment, blogs, business, community, news, all of those things are going to be my content sections. I can go through, pick the URLs, add them. You can have one for sports, one for your blog VIP section. Anything you want, you could have a different rule profile for it, and then those are going to be different URLs that are assigned separately. As you'll see on here, there are different rules. This is basically like a whitelist, blacklist type setup for the URLs. You can essentially have a rule up here. The star means a wildcard, which includes everything beneath it. And you can also have exceptions. So let's say I wanted to do blogs, but not the Quad City blog. So now I'm actually having all these sections set up, and then this one is an exception, meaning this one will not have the subscription on it. You'll want to go through and look at how your rule profiles are set up. Make sure that they are as optimized as possible, meaning that you have as few rules in here as you can. If you have something like news/star, that means everything inside of the news URL map, then you could add one exception, except the local section. This would be a nice optimized way to set up the news section as opposed to 15 different rules for all of those subsections. So just something to think about. And then again in here, content sections is how I'm setting this up. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you can actually disable these rule restrictions for a short period of time. Again, it's useful for temporarily allowing full access to your site in case of an emergency or the paper's late or there's a storm or something like that. You just click on that, save it, and that basically means that those settings are saved, but subscription is off for your site right now. Anything to add to that?
I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hopefully I went over that really quickly, but just to kind of sum up on that, we think that this is a really good new way to optimize your subscription settings. It's way less complicated to set these up and to manage them this way. So I would highly recommend that everyone goes in and looks at the rule profiles and make sure that they're set up in the optimized way. If you have any questions about this, or if you want help from our support team, as you're going through this, feel free to submit a ticket and say, I'm going to optimize this by deleting these 3. Does that sound right? We can help you with that process if you have any questions. And again, if you have any questions for us during this webinar, feel free to type them in, and we can help you at the end of the walkthrough. The next thing I wanted to talk about quickly was the syndication tool. This is what syndication looks like. It's basically a new application available underneath editorial in the editorial panel over here. So essentially what happens is that you create a channel, and then that channel, you choose the channel from your drop-down over here, and then that channel becomes visible in the internal space here, so you can actually browse through it and search through that channel. Again, this is like looking at the window into another site, so you can grab and pull their content onto your site. Obviously, whenever you set up one of these channels, there has to be permission from the source site for you to pull in their content, of course. So there's a little setting that you have to set up on the source site that allows a key that allows you to get in. But, so if I'm going to create a new channel, again, I can create a blocks-to-blocks channel, an RSS feed channel, or in this case, a YouTube channel. You can type in the channel name, and then it's optional, but you can actually also type in the name of a YouTube user or channel so you can see just their content. In this case, I chose the user QCT Desk, which is a news desk channel for QC Times. So I just typed in QCT Desk. I chose the YouTube QC Times channel from my dropdown. And then I'm seeing here a list of all of the YouTube videos that have been put out by that particular user over the last several months. So it's a really cool thing. One thing that I can do is I can pop in here anytime I'm looking for certain videos from this user. I can say, I really like this particular video. You can kind of open it up, preview the video. I can add, these are my section tags, so I can assign this asset to one of my section tags, and then I can go ahead and add it to the site. You get a choice to add it as a link or add the full asset to your site as a as a full YouTube asset on your site. So I can pull things into my account that way. You can also do more than one and then pull them in this way. It gives you the option, obviously, to add your own sections. So I can add sections, keywords, and flags, and then add them to my site. And that will go ahead and pull them in. You'll see here that I've got a little newspaper that means that it has been pulled into my site, so that way you can know whether or not this has already been imported. That also helps you deal with, if there's multiple editors who might be pulling content onto your site, you can see that this one's already been added, so you don't have to do it. You can also create automatic importers into your site, and this will be just an automated way to pull any asset meeting a certain criteria onto your site with no manual intervention. So let's say I wanted to create an importer for things from the Quad City Times YouTube channel about fire. So I'm going to come up with a search text for fire. So these are all the different fires that have happened recently, which is kind of a cool, look at all those cool videos they have. And you can add a start date. You can, if this was a keyword, or you can do like a # keyword, that's also a possibility. So in this case, I just want to do fire. Now I'm going to say, now that I've performed that search, I'm going to create a new importer that will be created from your current search terms. So this will create a YouTube channel importer for this specific user with everything with the keyword of fire. So I'm going to call this QC Times Fires. And then I can choose to import them as link assets or full assets. I can overwrite existing assets if there are any. You can disable it if you have been using it and you want to just turn it off without deleting it. You can add flags, sections. So in this case, I'm going to say these are hot. Get it? Because it's fire. Okay. And I'm going to put them in my my news local channel. And then I'm going to add a keyword, in this case, of #fire. And then that's the way I'm going to keep track of them. So go ahead and save. And now that will basically run every 15 minutes or so, and it will pull all of those assets onto my site automatically. And again, this might be a cool thing if you have, obviously I could build a whole fire section, with fireman news and ads to for the local fires in the area, with a map with all the places where the fires occurred. Anything like that, Halloween, parenting, different types of sports, all of those things will allow you to set up partnerships with other sites and pull those in. Obviously, especially with this YouTube channel, you're only going to be able to pull in videos that have embedding permissions set on those available videos in YouTube. So if the particular YouTube user does not want to share this video, you won't have access to that anyway. So all of these have permission to pull them onto your site. So again, that's the YouTube feature that's now available and we hope that you'll try that out and use it. And let us know what you think. Like I said, this is a new thing that we're adding. We're really interested to see how people are using this for their site and what kind of cool ideas you have. So definitely let us know what you think and if you have any feedback on how it works for you. So the last thing, I just wanted to show quickly some possible usages of our new bulletins blocks. As I said before, this is kind of a theme for Halloween. We also have another block called the utility, I think it's called the design header, which is just a block that lets you do like a little header like this. And we actually came out with matching themes for winter and Halloween for the design header and the bulletins block. So you can see that we've got the candy corn thing here and then like a candy corn matching pattern in the design header. So that kind of lets you choose one of those themes and you can kind of create a matching subsection page with that header for your topic. In this case, we'll say that this is local haunted houses for Halloween and other events. And I'm able to create this very easily, this little subsection page, tag some assets, pull them in. I probably would put this bulletins block also on my front page to drive traffic here. And then each of these ads, is available for closer details. You can add other content and other blocks onto these pages if you have sponsorships, other types of ads. Like I said, a map of haunted houses for the area, any kind of haunted house or seasonal content. And then you're able to very easily create this subpage. Here's an example of, let's say, a holiday gift guide, again, that is using the design header as an example. I have a lead presentation block here showing some seasonal content. And then I have, this might be a gift guide showing different types of ads that are related to things that are going on for the holiday. Again, you can see that if I click on the individual asset itself, it'll bring up a pop-up overlay page with more details about that ad and about that advertiser. So it's definitely a cool thing to tie them to a business directory asset, and then that way it'll show information about that business as well. I think that's it. Any other things that I need to cover that I forgot? No? Okay, so we'll go ahead and have some questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in. Okay, looks like we have a handful of questions. We'll start with Michael Becker. His question is, will the AP syndication feed replace the AP feed some sites have coming in through Town News setup processing jobs? Yes. Yeah, I'll add to that. But yeah, and you can actually, I think that we're starting to set these up right now. If you want to go ahead and send us an email with your AP credentials, we can, basically you type in the credentials that you have for your Associated Press setup, and then the AP channels that are available to you are then available within the syndication tool. We have had some issues where sites did not have the permissions that they thought they had, and so as soon as they type them into our tool, there's there are restrictions built in on our side based on what AP thinks that you have access to. So you might anticipate that you'll have to call AP and make sure that your credentials are set up with your appropriate sections that you think that you have and that you're pulling in. Just because you're pulling in certain things now does not mean that you are correctly paying for them. I guess is my point. So sometimes we might have to work that out, that there might be a difference between what you think that you have access to and what you actually have access to on your credentials with AP. But that's part of the reason why we're doing this process, is that we now have a permissions-based way to check what AP says that you actually have access to, and so you'll have to make sure that you have the correct credentials associated with your account. Once that happens, we'll be able to create those channels, and you'll be able to very easily pull that content on your site through syndication. I will say also that we are really working hard on the syndication tool right now. In one of our future core releases, we are integrating the syndication tool further into editorial. So you'll be able to create an asset in the editorial application directly through syndication. So you'll basically be able to say new asset. It'll bring up a little finder pop-up for the syndication tool. You find your asset and you pull it onto your site. So without ever actually having to go to the syndication tool separately, you'll be able to integrate those items with your site very seamlessly. So we have some really cool things coming up with syndication, and I definitely would encourage people to look at that now.
Okay, we have a couple questions from Carrie Cole. The first thing, if we add a blog using syndication, will it link out to the blog as a hyperlink or pull the content into a Town News article?
Yeah, you have the choice when you set up the importer or the individual feed, whether or not you're going to pull that in as a link or as a full article. So, and it'll be under, well, I guess I already put that in here, but if you click on Add to Site, you have the capability of Add as a link, which will just be the link off to the other site, or you'll be able to add it to your site, which means you're pulling that content into your site as an asset.
Okay, her second question is, will priority options be added for YouTube syndication content items?
I'm not 100% sure what that means. If you mean like adding priority in this panel as you pull it in, that could be, that's not something that's in here right now, but that is something that we could add. So feel free to submit a ticket if that's what you're asking for the priority to be available as you're pulling it in, and I'll see if that's something that we can add.
Okay. Jason Schaefer asks, does the YouTube syndication pull in the YouTube tags as keywords?
I don't think it does, but that's a good idea. I do not think it does right now, though. I can check on that, but that's a good feature.
There's another question from Carrie Cole. It is, can we make a push out to YouTube channels with videos we upload to Town News?
Not through this tool, but I don't know if it's possible to do, well, I guess I don't know is going to be my answer. It might, depending on how YouTube accepts videos, you can get like an RSS feed of your videos from blocks. So if that's a possibility, I don't know if there's any kind of batch upload type things that are available with YouTube, but it depends on what kind of feeds or batch uploads YouTube accepts. I'm not sure about that. But this tool doesn't do that. That would be something that would be done from taking a feed or an RSS feed out of blocks and then doing something with YouTube.
We have some questions about the Bulletins block. Mike asked, where do we find the Bulletins block?
So one thing to remember is that whenever we do new block templates, those are available as new templates. They're not necessarily, we don't create the block in your block library. So what you would need to do is go into your block library and go to create a new block. Depending on the type of block you were going to create, so if I wanted to create an editorial, business assets, and then I could search for bulletins. So this is the bulletins block. As long as your site is on updates, you should have the new bulletins block available here when you search for it this way. If you have, for example, sports stats and you search for bulletins, that's not available because sports stats doesn't work with the bulletins block. But things like classifieds will have access to bulletins. Calendar, so calendar might be cool to create like a list of Halloween events that are in the area, and you can make sure to add those to your calendar and then pull them into a bulletins block and put them on the front page. So, but yeah, if you don't have this block available or you can't find it by creating a new block in the block editor and pulling that template in, call our customer support staff and they'll see, you know, if your site is on updates or what's going on or why we can't find that. But that should be available there.
Okay, so it looks like Jackie Gray is wondering if the backgrounds are possible to customize in any way, and if you could change the bulletin block title.
You can change the block title of bulletins, but you can't change the little bulletins flag. So for example, I'll show you essentially, I will bring up actually this page too so that you can see all of these together. But there is a standard blocks title available on all of these bulletins blocks. So you can choose to use the standard title instead of the bulletin title. So for example, right here I have featured real estate agencies, and then I've got bulletins on there. You can't change the bulletins part right now anyway, but you can change obviously the block title of that page. So you can come in here, go to the Appearance tab, and change the title here. Yeah, but here's kind of some different examples of different bulletins blocks that I've set up. You can always go to showcase.blockcms.com/bulletins to see kind of some of the different examples that I have set up here. These are featured real estate agents, so this is the business directory. You can do a pop-up to see, RE/MAX. Here's a map of their location, their business page, sharing tools, contact information for that business. It's a really nice page, and again, this counts right now as a profile page view. So that actually gave them a page view to their profile page. These are auto dealers, so I've got kind of some featured auto dealers here, Valentine's Day. I've got newspaper ads over here in one of our plain themes. We've got a chalkboard, a corkboard, and here's an example of the Halloween and winter, and then here's patriotic. And then again, another one that's plain, and then a whole newspaper ads thing I have down here. Another thing that's kind of cool is you can click on Show All, and that lets you create a link into your classified section. And we actually, by using a URL parameter here, bulletins equals winter, you're able to actually map that same winter theme down to your classified section as well. So that's kind of a cool additional thing that you can do as well.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. Andy Adams asked, do the bulletins work on mobile sites as well?
Not this particular block, but you are able to use different blocks to, you'd use like the, I can't remember the name of it right now, like the tile block or the main box block for Touch 5, and then you could replicate the same pull, like same ads, and pull those onto mobile. But you wouldn't use the actual bulletins block with the theme and stuff. That's probably, and it doesn't have the pop-up, but you could pull that in onto blocks depending on how you wanted to set that up on Touch 5. You would just create a different block with a mobile optimized template and pull that in.
Okay. Looks like Eric is asking, is there any way to tell how many times the bulletin board is opened?
We don't right now track the impressions of the block itself, but we do count when you click on the individual ads and then it shows that overlay, that counts as a page view to that particular ad. Just the same as if you went to the details page of that ad or the business like this page. So that does track in the individual page views for that specific asset. And if it's tied to a business, I can go to the Lithia business directory, look at the business summary report for that business, and all of those page views will be tracked and on the summary report for that business.
All right, looks like this is our final question. Do you have to have business directory in order to really utilize bulletins?
It's way cooler if you have business directory, but no. I'll show you what one of these looks like if you don't have business directory applied. Well, that one does. Maybe these guys. Yeah, so this is a classified ad. It is not associated to a business, so you can see here that I don't have the business tabs or the business profile on this page. But we do show more information about that classified ad or about that, that newspaper ad. Even if it's not assigned to a business, it still does show an overlay and it gives you more information about that classified ad. But it's not quite as cool as it is if you have it the other way. And just one more thing to close up about all this stuff. Back to the AP stuff, I will mention quickly that we are going to eventually be migrating everybody over to the new AP syndication setup. So that is something that eventually we will reach out and contact people and ask you for your credentials and have you set up that way. There's a lot of reasons to migrate to that. It's a little bit easier to use. It's easier for your newsroom to use. As I said, we're going to integrate more with syndication over the coming months. And it'll actually be a little bit faster to pull in breaking news and stuff like that to your site through the syndication tool than it will be for the job process. So there's a lot of actual reasons to migrate to that once you're ready. But if you have any questions about that, go ahead and submit a ticket to us, and we can look at your account and see if you're able to move over. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that concludes the question A session.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, should I do the last thing? Sorry. Let's see here. Oops. So I'll do a quick wrap up here. There are a couple different ways for you to stay connected and keep in touch with us here at Town News. Obviously, our documentation website is available at docs.townnews.com. There's more information about the syndication tool, the rule profiles, and the bulletins block, all available on that site. Obviously, you can call our support team or submit a ticket through support.townnews.com. We have a new partner community that's available for all of our customers. If you haven't used that yet, please feel free to go in there and check it out. It's really cool. I know some of you guys on the call today are frequent visitors, and it's very much appreciated. It's available at community.townnews.com. You can post messages, or if you have feature ideas or any kind of questions about anything having to do with blocks, it's a great place to keep in touch with us. And you can vote on other features that you think are cool, and then, obviously we pay attention to things that have, we pay more attention, I guess, to things that have, lots of high votes and things like that. It's a great way to express things that are important to you. You can follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. And it's a great way to go to the Town News site, and you'll find this Stay Connected widget that's available on our site where you can sign up for all of our different newsletters and alerts. And I would highly recommend that you promote to your staff and to your managers that they should be coming to this webinar every month at 10:30 on the first Thursday at 10:30. We'll be doing this kind of keep updated webinar, and then obviously being able to subscribe to our different newsletters to keep up to date on new things that we're doing and any kind of alerts or anything that's happening. So I think that's it. Great. Thank you guys very much, and thanks for coming.